Hello everyone, this is another episode of Consciousness and Evolution. I'm Mario Luna and I'm with Re-Prudential International. We are a consensus-centric institution focused on re-education. To know more about what activities and courses, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram as Re-Prudential International. Today we explore near-death experience, NDE, and know that NDEs are not anomalies, but natural phenomena that reveal the continuity of consciousness beyond the physical body. Some questions arise from this topic, interesting questions. Actually, you can come up with your own questions in the question box during the presentation of our guest today. But some questions might arise from this topic, right? What really happens during a near-death experience? What evidence do we have for the multinational existence of consciousness? How can NDEs, a near-death experience, transform our values, priorities, and life purpose? Right. Today we have a very special researcher to talk about this, and she is Leona Nasser. I will read here a short curriculum from Leona. Leona was born in Lebanon and migrated into the US in 1995. Leona has lived and traveled extensively across Europe and Middle East and North America. She holds a PhD in science with over 10 years of experience in pharmacy practice and 15 years in education. In 2016, she became a certified trainer and coach in leadership and presentation skills, followed by a certification as a multiple intelligence consultant in 2017, therefore becoming a leading voice in holistic healing and conscious living. She is then affiliated with International Coaching Federation, ICF, an international speaker and author of 2 books, Change Your Life in the Light of Consciousness and Awakening to the Power of Now. Today, she integrates diverse disciplines in her approach as a holistic health and 3 brains coach, help individuals with chronic illnesses heal from within, overcoming daily challenges to reclaim their quality of life. Leona, it's a pleasure to
Hello,
have you
Mario.
here today, talking about your
Hello,
experiences.
Mario.
How are you, Leona? Leona is speaking from Beirut, right, in Lebanon. Very nice.
Yes.
And then she will start with his experience with near-death experiences. We may come with questions, right, Leona? But first, let's just start by hearing you and listen to your story, right? The day you had experiences, how this experience transformed your life, and the learnings that you have from these experiences as well.
Exactly. So, 30 years ago, I migrated to the United States, and 6 months later, after arriving, I was involved in a car accident. I was 22 years old at that time. After a family gathering, as we were leaving in the car, we had a huge accident where we hit a huge pole on the side of the road. I was a passenger at that time. I heard metal twisting, glass shattering, and silence after that. I lost track of time, to tell you the truth. But I felt a sense of security divine trying to protect me from harm. As I recall, there was a huge crowd of people around the scene watching. And at that moment, even though I had a pelvic fracture, both of my legs were broken, my bones were totally crushed, I had broken ribs, and I got a hit on the head. But I did not feel any pain. I just felt lightness. I felt my body was so light and I was floating above my body. Um, To tell you the truth, it was just like a dream. You know, you're consciously there, hearing the sounds, seeing everything around, but physically, I was still. I was not able to move, just like in a dream. Um, and also, the view for me, as I was floating above my body, was as if you're taking a drone's view, drone's panoramic view from above, seeing everything around me. But as I said, I dissociated from my body. I was not feeling any pain. Uh, then the rescue team or the paramedics arrived at the scene. Uh, because of the strong collision with the pole, the front of the car compressed to the rear, and we were stuck inside. So they had to cut the car in order to be able to take us without any further damages. It took about half an hour to cut the car and extract us from there. I didn't feel the time, as I said. I was told later that it took about half an hour. And that's when I felt that my body went back. Um, and, I went back to that body and life again. It was on the sounds of the ambulance siren.
That's very interesting. I've got a question for you because actually it's something that it's a very intriguing question because most of the cases I've heard of near-death experience happens to people who had never previously had any kind of experiences concerning the existence of a body outside of this physical body, right? So
Right.
sometimes people just go through it and get really scared about seeing themselves outside of the body and trying to deal with that condition which was had not previously been experienced before. So in your case, that happens. I mean, before you had this experience, had you had any idea of life outside of the body or out of body experiences?
To tell you the truth, before that, I was not aware of the concept, except that, when we are sleeping, during the sleep time, I'm aware that we leave our bodies at that time. And I could relate to the sleeping phase of life through that experience because it felt exactly the same. You have no track of time, you don't feel the passage of time. And at the same time, you're conscious of everything that's going on, except that you're not being able to move. Or you don't move during sleep, but consciously you are living the events, and they seem so real. And you're out of the body. We are out of our bodies during that phase of time. But I was not aware of, to tell you the truth, I seen a lot of documentaries about people who went through these experiences, and they talk about walking through, a tunnel and seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. To me, it didn't feel that way. I didn't see all of that. All that I felt is that lightness and that divine security of protection and feeling safe. And it was a pleasurable experience, to tell you the truth. I felt peace, joy, stillness, serenity during that time.
Very interesting. So could you say that actually when you were outside of the body, living that experience, could you say that you assumed another kind of identity in which this kind of thing is more natural to you? It's like we go because we are here in this physical environment, and then suddenly we see ourselves outside of the body, right? And most of people, when they look their body lying down, so right, what we call in conceptual bilocation is when we are located in two different places at the same time, outside of the body and inside the body, within the body. So we felt kind of awkward, feeling like, what is that? What I'm doing here outside of the body. So this is what I'd like to. Can you recollect actually this moment that you were outside of the body, I think that you didn't think that it was totally crazy. You assumed as something natural for you. What's that?
Yeah, it was very natural for me, just because, as I told you, it's very similar to the dream stage or to the dream phase of life. But at the same time, you don't have that control over returning, because there is this returning phase into the body. So I felt outside, seeing everything from above, very light. But at that time, I didn't have a choice to come back or return back. Not until as I told you, the ambulance siren and the paramedics um, came to start basic life support, attaching me to the monitors. That's when I felt that I am back into that body. Everything before felt like a dream, felt like I'm not in this dimension, not in this physical dimension. Something similar to the feelings that you have when you do certain conscious and safe living practices, such as meditation, breath work. When you practice these kind of conscious, practices, at some point you feel that spirituality. You get over that life physicality, and this uh, dimension, this body dimension, this physical dimension. Um, so, if I answered your question, uh, for me, I didn't exist physically as a body, but conscious wise, I was aware and I was here. And it felt like it's not my time to leave. There was something holding me back. I was kind of suspended between this dimension and the other dimension. And there was something pulling me back to life. And it happened when the paramedics just uh, took me out of the car, putting me on the stretcher, and started basic life support. That's when I became, one with that physical dimension, or with the physical body.
Good. Very interesting experience. Okay, how long did it take to your full recovery? How long did you spend in the hospital in this
Yeah,
due to this accident?
Yeah, that was truly a long time that I've spent in the hospital, just because I told you I had a pelvic fracture, two broken legs. It took about 10 hours just to, do the surgery, and more than one surgery to insert plates. And getting me back to normal took some time. I had to be trained, or during rehabilitation, I had to go through a lot of training to put weight back on both legs, just like a little child trying to walk again, because of the new condition that I'm living, new physical condition that I had to adjust to. I was lucky that I did not, get any paralysis or lost any limb, but it was a long time of healing, even after hospitalization. I was hospitalized for about a month, or more than that, and
Mhm.
there were surgeries frequently during that time. And then after I was released from the hospital, I also went through a lot of surgeries. It took about 1 year to fully recover and get back to normal, be able to stand up and walk normally. And thankfully, that happened. I didn't have any problems going back to normal on both legs.
Very good. And then this the first time that you, as soon as you had the accident, so you lost your conscience, right? You were unconscious, right? So that did take long, or this one question, right? And the second one is if you had all the experience, near death experience later on.
Yeah, well, to tell you the truth, I don't think I lost consciousness. I was still conscious during, the accident time. And as I told you, I could not feel, excuse me, I have to drink water.
All right. Anna, you are muted.
Yes, hello everybody. We are very happy to have Leona here, and I believe in her experience. She was conscious the whole time, wasn't it?
That's amazing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, I was conscious all of the time. And I vividly remember and recall all of the single little details during that time. I remember the gathering of people, a huge crowd, in front of the scene, the paramedics, all of that was very real. I didn't lose consciousness. What I have lost during that time is the sense of pain because I was not in the body. And that's what confirms that I was not there. With all of these broken bones, I didn't feel any pain at that time. And also, time was not there. The dimension of time was gone. It disappeared with non-physicality, because I was not there physically. Time has diminished to be there. And I, I felt I was in another dimension similar to that of a dream. Just like when you're dreaming, you don't have track of time. You're just there in the event, conscious to everything that's going on, but physically you're not moving. You're not in motion. You're still uh, in that position or in one position.
But then outside of the body, they had a fully control of your body. You could think, you could move, you could do whatever you wanted, right? You kept the control of your body as outside it.
To tell you the truth, when I was outside of the body, I was only conscious there as awareness. So physically, I don't want to say I didn't have any connection, but maybe because of the injuries and the position I'm locked in inside of the car, as I told you, we're compressed inside of the car. So because of that locked position, I could not move. And probably because also I got a hit on the front head just from bouncing, to the back and then to the front. So I was there consciously, I was aware, but physically I was not in motion. Now, if I had, if you're asking whether I had the ability to control moving, I think I would, but because of the injuries and that locking position, I was not moving. I was still in that same position. And I was aware that something terribly have happened to that body. So maybe I didn't want to put any pressure on the body. I was just there waiting until the paramedics are going to take me out of the car.
I say, did you feel supported or accompanied by any consciousness, extra physical consciousness?
Yeah, I know during the phases of near-death experience, there's this supernatural phase where people can see deceased relatives and pets and supernatural powers, angels. I didn't see any of that, but I was, as I said, I felt a divine energy protecting me, keeping me safe, allowing me to feel that I am secure and everything will be okay. So I had this, divine energy embracing me at that time. And maybe that's why I stayed in that still position because of this feeling of safety, because of this feeling of being surrendered by that divine energy.
Very interesting. Had you had any out of body experiences before this one?
No, to tell you the truth, other
That
than
was,
in the
that was
dreams,
the first one.
that didn't happen.
Lucid dreams and so forth, those things along this line. You had never experienced anything like that before. So it was really um, a point of a change in your life, right? So
Definitely.
this is exactly what I would like to know. So, how it changed, how this experience changed your life, or did you change the way you're thinking, or the idea you had of yourself? Because as you said that you hadn't had an experience before that see yourself outside of your body. So I think that life changed a bit its own conception, right? It's like, wow, I can live outside of my body. So it is something fantastic. And so I'd like to hear from you concerning this topic.
Exactly. The experience taught me that time is an illusionistic boundary that we create, and pain is also temporary. So I became more patient, more tolerant, especially because I've been, hospitalized for the longest time. So there was a paradigm shift in my perception to life, and I stopped seeing, suffering as a punishment. I started seeing it as transformation that leads to growth, to personal growth. Um, Before the accident, I was considering going to pharmacy school. But after the accident, I became determined to pursue that path to help alleviate the suffering of others. So it made me feel more compassionate about myself. I became more self compassionate and compassionate about others' pain too at the same time. Also, after my diagnosis with Crohn's disease years later, which is an inflammatory bowel disease, it's incurable, I learned that healing involves more than just medication. So my perspective shifted with, that condition too, from merely dispensing drugs to embracing a holistic healer role at that time. My life purpose, as you see, there is a paradigm shift here. My life purpose evolved with the NDE. And now I support people living with chronic illnesses, overcoming their daily challenges and healing holistically and
Mhm.
leading fulfilling and normal lives. I guide them through the same multidimensional healing path that I have walked myself through the near death experience, through the chronic illness healing journey.
So actually, you started to consider this the fact that you can live outside of the body in your own profession. You consider this holistic view of the consciousness,
Exactly.
which is actually the basis of conscientiology, right? We study the consciousness as a whole, our manifestations in the intraphysical environment and the manifestations outside the intraphysical environment, which is in the extraphysical environment. And after that, did you start studying more about near-death experience? What happened concerning your research on this matter?
Yeah, exactly what you said. This near death experience showed me that healing is about returning to wholeness. It's not about escaping the pain, it's about awakening through it into my true purpose. So then I was more interested in, researching and seeking further what is meant through that experience to me personally. As a person being part of this universe, do I have a specific role to play here? After going through the near death experience and the chronic illness, experience too, because the chronic illness experience also is associated with near death experiences. From the disease, you can get close to death from these, conditions. So all of those, factors or components of the near death experiences out of the accident, the trauma, out of the chronic illness played together um, and allowed me to explore further what is my true purpose here as one of this whole universe. Do I have a role to play other than being, in pharmacy, or an educator. So then I found that that was a sign for me that I should um, you know pursue a path, a career path that is connected to what I have been through as an experience, and I can guide others more confidently, more with more knowledge, just because I walked that path myself. And I came to realize that healing is not by taking medication, or it's not only by taking medication. There are other aspects of healing, and we have to balance the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental health and energy in order to heal holistically.
Good. I think we have some questions coming from the audience, right, Anna? Anna, I think you're muted. You are muted.
Yes, I'm sorry. So anyways, I have a question from Alexandre Zaslavsky. He wants to know if Leona has a relationship with any Eastern spiritual traditions, if any, before this experience and after.
Eastern tradition?
I think probably what he meant it's Western, because you are from the West, and he put here Eastern spiritual traditions, and I think probably he meant Western.
Okay. I didn't have experiences with that before. I don't know if about Eastern he's talking about the the Indian philosophy or anything like that. But I have practiced in the past meditation, yoga, breath work, these kind of practices that can expand consciousness at some point. I think that's what he meant by the Eastern
Oh, he's
tradition.
here explaining. He means Eastern, actually, like Sufism, Buddhism, and yes, you
Yeah,
caught the
yeah, I got that. I think that's what he
meaning
meant.
of his
Yeah,
question.
yoga, meditation, breath work, mindfulness. Yeah, I have practiced that before. And yeah, the Sufi path, it's something I explored before the accident, right? And that allowed me to spiritually be strong during the tough times that I went through. So as I always say, when our spirit or soul is strong, you can get over the hardships of the body. So the soul can uplift the soma, what you call in conscientology, uplift the soma above the pain and the suffering. I think that's what he meant when he asked the question. So the
Yes.
spiritual path, yeah, have helped me during that phase of life. The uplifting spirit above the physical pain, and being in that spiritual dimension and having connection with the spiritual dimension allowed me to overcome the pain and heal and recover, quicker than it might have been longer if I didn't have that strong spiritual connection.
Very well. And Eliane is thanking you for sharing your experience with us. And she's also asking you a question. If you have talked to your physicians about your near death experience, what did they say about it?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, during my stay in the hospital, there was a lot of empathy, and there were social workers and psychologists visiting me during my stay. I stayed there for over a month. So there were, psychologists and social workers in connection with me to talk about my mental and psychological state at the time. As you know, there's always a psychological interference with trauma, accidents, and other traumas. So I have talked about what I've been through, but not as we are discussing it today from a consciousness perspective. It was more like psychologically, how do you feel? Do you feel okay? Do you need emotional support? Things like that. It was not from a conscientology perspective at that time.
Yeah, let's not forget that it happened like 30 years ago, right? You were just a kid and you were leading your normal life, going to college. And at those times, if you told a physician about your experience, probably he would think that you were dissociating and you were like having a mental breakdown or something of the alike, because as a doctor myself, we don't have a lot of um resources to think about that from school. We have to go and search some other places so we can really educate ourselves about it. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly, Anna. That's very true. Especially 30 years ago, there was not that much awareness and knowledge. Now, as you said, you're exploring that on your own and researching it because medical school does not teach about trauma and, what happens to the person during that phase of life. Now, there's more awareness about the trauma and the loneliness, the pain associated with it, and how it can drive people to addiction and other problems. So there's more awareness at this time. And to tell you the truth, there is a huge breakout in modern, medical field regarding the psychedelic assisted therapy that is done under medical supervision, where they can evoke boundary dissolving experiences similar to that of near-death experience while administering microdoses of certain substances, such as, let's say, ketamine. Ketamine can, with certain dosages, it can induce symptoms similar to that of near-death experience. Definitely, it has to be done by a clinician. And they're used with terminally ill patients to reduce anxiety, fear, and depression associated with them going close to death. It expands compassion and it allows them to become more accepting, lucid, and peaceful. In these cases, the substance that they use is not the healer, but consciousness beyond the form, beyond the body, is what allow these patients to overcome the fear of death and become more acceptable of what's going to happen later.
Yeah, this in fact happened over the evolution of the human race. They've been using like ayahuasca. They had the Greeks where they aspirated vapors, and those are things that help you induce this experience of out of body. But we know as a fact when we study conscienciology that you can induce this experience by your will, which is let's say it has no side effects. So I would think it's a safest way to go. But obviously now science is coming to terms to the use of these substances that they really have some type of action in the brain. And they are studying this a little deeply, which is very good because some time ago they wouldn't accept anything about spirituality in medicine as well. So that's a good sign. We are evolving.
Right. It's it proved that it's working, and it's been legalized in different states in the United States now. Just I said, under the supervision of clinicians, so it's not supposed to be done, with the person by themselves. So it has to be medically supervised. But yeah, it's helping patients, to some of them are not terminally ill. It's used with those who are having major depression, and it's working for them. There is no scientific or researchers that totally prove that it's meant to treat these conditions, but it's working. So that's why it's been legalized in some of the states.
I would like to approach one point that's very common. When someone has this kind of experience or near-death experience, it's a very common report. Is that when you see yourself outside of the body, and you realize that you are still alive outside of the body, you lose the fear, or you overcome the fear of death. Did it happen to you?
Yes, definitely. During that experience, I lost the fear of death because I have seen myself, you know, in another dimension. So I was not in this physical dimension. And I have seen that even though when the body does not exist, consciousness is still, endlessly present. So that dissolved the fear of death to me because I knew that this is not the end. It might be the end of the physical body, but it's
Hmm.
not the end of consciousness. We are still there. As I said, I was totally conscious and aware of what was going on, even though I was not feeling my body. So even when we are out of this physical dimension, we seem to be still existing as consciousness and awareness in another dimension.
Good. Near-death experience is actually a phenomenon caused by, an accident or a disease or a clinical condition, and it involves the projection, right? The outside of the body experiences. Have you grown any kind of interest in researching the projection of the consciousness or out of body experiences after the experience you had? Did you start researching on this?
The projection, meaning whether we want to go to another conscious life. Is that what you mean by projection here? Or
Yes. For example, you had this out of body experiences, right? Did after that experience, did you start studying this or doing any kind of research to go deeper in this kind of topic and know more about it and share your experience with other people, hearing the experiences from other people? Did you
yeah,
extend?
definitely, and that's why I wrote two books. In my two books, I have done a huge research and deep research about near-death experiences and the different phases of pleasurable and distress, phases of near-death experiences. And I shared my near-death experience with the world through these two books. Um, and definitely, I had to research other people's near-death experiences and what they had to say. As I told you before, too many people describe going through a tunnel and seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Some say they met deceased relatives or supernatural powers as angels. So I'm aware of all of that, but I could relate to some experiences that were spiritual in a way, as I said, feeling divinity during that moment and feeling safe despite all of the physical damage that was surrounding the accident.
This is what I'd like to hear from you a bit more about your books, right? Because you have the books which is called Change Your Life in the Light of Consciousness. When you wrote this book, were you living in Lebanon or in the United States?
Well, when I wrote this book, interestingly, I was in the Gulf. I spent about 15 years in the Gulf, teaching there and education. So it was towards the end of my time in the Gulf where I started writing the book, and then I sent it for publishing in UK. It took around 3 years to get published after many revisions and editing. So it was later on in my life. It was not close to the accident time. It was years later after that. which allowed me to, as I said, to research more, to reflect more on that experience, and as I said, see what is the role I'm supposed to take afterwards, after all of these years and all of these experiences, in addition to the near-death experience I went through due to the accident and due to the chronic illness. So it was like the sum of all whole life experience together.
Interesting. I'm curious to know something more personal. When you published those books, right? The first one about the experience. How did
The
you feel
second, the second one was in Lebanon. Yeah,
in
as you
Lebanon?
said, Lebanon.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. Now I really would like to know how your friends and family received those books, and they how did they approach to your experience? Because
Yeah.
actually it's important to say that you live in a very religious country, right?
Oh,
So how did this paradigms deal with each other, I would like to know a bit about it if you can tell us.
yeah. Well, as you said, I lived in the Western culture and I lived in the Eastern culture. The accident happened in the West, but definitely the documentation, the books happened part in the Gulf and another part in Lebanon. So
Hmm.
it was, if we want to talk about relatives, friends, it was like a combination of those who were with me during the accident time in the United States,
Hmm.
who can relate emotionally to the experience because they were close there to when it happened, and those who are here reflecting on what I have expressed through my books, and looking at that not just from an emotional point of view, but as a conscious wise, conscious wise, what have shifted uh, in my personality from that past experience up to the moment. So the perception of identity of who I am could be divided into more than one identity. That identity that is in the West, where people are, uh, uh, emotionally empathizing with the situation. Definitely, when you're there at the incident or during the accident time, you have different emotions and psychological states than when you are an observer, away from the accident and the scene, and you're just seeing that person as someone who's, you know, walking okay, does not look like they have any injuries. You don't know the suffering they went through. They're just revealing and expressing that experience through words. So it is a different perception between the two groups. But definitely, I see a lot of support on both sides, just because the experience was very hard to accept at that time. And still, you face challenges in terms of the person you were before, physically, and the physical challenges that you might face later on the long term.
I see. And then you have these two books, one, right? One is Change Your Life in the Light of Consciousness, and the other one, Awakening to the Power of Now. Both of these books are talking about your experience with the death experience, as I understood, right?
Right. The Awakening to the Power of Now was published in the States, even though I'm here in Lebanon.
Hmm.
But it is the second edition of the Change Your Life in the Light of Consciousness. So it's an improved edition of the first book, but still has my near-death experience as, the major source of knowledge in that book. In addition to the, neuroscience of consciousness formation and the altered states of consciousness and the spiritual enlightenment after that.
All right. It's more descriptive concerning the accident itself, or did you put your changes, how your life changes, and how your even philosophical side of the situation? How did you approach? How did you approach this near-death experience in those books?
Yeah, I talked about, as you said, about the facts and describing what have happened during the accident in one of the chapters. But later on, I talked about altered states of consciousness, how an incident like that, a near-death experience, can alter our state of consciousness. That can happen immediately or suddenly, different from the conscious practices that we do on a daily basis, like meditation, prayer, and mindfulness. That might take some time to alter our state of consciousness, while near death experience could be sudden shift in our state of consciousness, and that could lead, as I said in my book, to spiritual enlightenment afterwards. And that spiritual enlightenment could happen close to the near death experience time, and it could be something progressing over time too, but it uh, opens up that spiritual dimension, and expand your consciousness to be fully aware of that other dimension.
Interesting. Yeah. Why I asked you this question? Because actually, I'm writing a book about clairaudience, which is the ability to hear consciousness and sound from other dimensions, right? As we have clairvoyance, which is see consciousness and sound and things from the other dimension. Clairaudience is the ability to hear. And in Brazil, we live in a very multicultural country, right? So we have, but it's still very religious, right? So I cannot talk about this with everyone I know. I have some reservations about that, right? So I have to be careful, as I mentioned, that I can hear that people, as people would consider to see that people when you are clairvoyant and hear that people when you are clairaudient. So I have some reservations about that. Do you feel it? That it's for you, it's not so open, you don't have so much openness to talk about your experiences, and how do you deal with that? Because in the United States, that's fine, they are doing a huge research on this at the moment, so they also with lots of vocabulary no documentary being released, right? About this topic of near-death experience. So it's a widespread topic in the United States at the moment. So it's a lot better for you to talk about it. But considering that you are in Beirut in Lebanon, how do people react to it?
Yeah, you are right. In the Eastern culture, and in religious communities, the near death experience sometimes is perceived as you got another chance to live again, and maybe that is going to be, some people think it's kind of like punishment to what you have done in the past, and you can now have a second chance to improve your life later, you know. So yeah, religiously it could be perceived from different perspectives. Others might see it as, an opportunity to get back to life and maybe change the way you deal with others. So it is religiously um, not perceived the same way when you are talking about a near-death experience from consciousness expansion perspective or point of view. But definitely, people will have a perception that this experience is going to change something in that person. There is going to be some kind of transformative behavior, some transformation in your beliefs and the way you deal with others, in your relationship with God, and supernatural power and spiritual power. So this perception from a religious point of view might not allow you to express the consciousness expansion from conscientology point of view, if that's what you're asking about.
Yes, yeah, this is what I was really going through. Another question that I am curious to know is if you had all that out of body experiences after that one.
I don't think I have any other than the ones during the sleep time.
Oh, you mean during the sleep time you didn't have any?
I'm saying I don't have anything beyond the sleep time, because during sleep time
Okay.
we have out of the body experience.
Yes, sure. Yeah. But that was the only one you ever had, right?
I came close to death with my chronic illness. If I want to say, um, few times, due to malnutrition, because this disease leaves you malnutritious. Your body does not absorb all of the nutrients. So at some point, I got weak to the point that I was gonna lose consciousness. But I was still aware, as I said before, and I asked for help. And that's when, again, emergency and ambulances came to take me to the hospital, just before, totally collapsing.
I see. Okay, and what do you have in mind considering your research on this topic? Have you or had you actually at this until this moment have you had any experience of had actually studied the projectiology or been in contact with the neuroscience called projectiology from the Professor Val Vieira, which was what I think is the most important researcher on out-of-body experiences in this planet. Have you ever had any contact with his books and the treatises?
To tell you the truth, I've learned about him through reapprehendentia and through the Consciousness in Evolution program. So I have not went too deep into his researches and to his work yet. I had, uh, reviewed some of the concepts that he have talked about in conscientology, and from the webinars I've been attending with Anna here. So I have some basic knowledge, but I did not truly go too deep into researching what he have done in the past. But it would be interesting to learn more about his work and what he have done all of these years.
Good. And concerning again your books, right? Have you been presented them or given presentations, talk about them, or been invited to talk about this topic with any other channel?
No, to tell you the truth, everyone was open to, promoting the books, and especially they were interested in the near-death experience, not from conscientology perspective, but as an experience that is, known at this time, and the paradigm shift that happens after the near-death experience these days is too much research, and people are curious about that. So there was curiosity, there was more support to that work, to both books. And I've been interviewed through podcasts and other interviews regarding both books, and I talked about the experience, not as we're talking right now, but just as some human who went through an experience, an accident that got them so close to death.
Good. Have you shared your ideas, your experience with other person who had the same kind of experience, near-death experience?
To tell you the truth, no. I have
No.
not in person. So I've done my research. I explored and read about, and I've seen documentaries. You have those over the YouTube and other channels where people talk about their near-death experiences, but not face to face.
I see. So, because as I see, it was not traumatic, right, Leona? It was not a traumatic experience for you. It was something that you felt, well and comfortable with this, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a pleasurable experience. Some experience that, as I said, allowed me to expand my consciousness beyond the physical dimension, exploring other dimensions and feeling peace and joy and tranquility during those moments, and not being aware of pain or not feeling any pain at that moment. And definitely it changed my life afterwards.
That's good. What would you say to someone who has just had this kind of experience and is a bit or is scared or feeling awkward about it? So, what would you say to those people having this kind of experience?
I will tell them that, hardship and suffering are temporary. They wouldn't last, and the most challenging times and events, could be overcome if we stay strong, and if we detach ourselves from the material world and our physical bodies, to explore other dimensions. So all of our struggles and, all our hardships can dissociate at the moment if we, uh, explore other dimensions other than the material and physical dimension. And to tell you the truth, I myself, I have learned through hardship and through struggles that nothing lasts forever. And definitely faith and spiritual strength can carry us during that, critical time.
If you had another experience, not near that experience, right? For God's sake, no. But if you had another experience like an out of body experience today, would you do you think that you would be more prepared to explore it and know more about it and go further in knowing more about how you manifest outside of the body? Would you?
Yeah, I think that that is very important question. Just because of the knowledge that I have and the experience that I went through, I could be more into exploring the multi-dimensional life, experiences through consciousness, and I might be, exploring the different, impacts that it would have on a human life, knowing that and feeling secure that my consciousness is not gonna um, dissociate, only my physical existence can dissociate. So there's no fear of going outside of that body and exploring awareness on its own, being that awareness that is expressed through that body.
Very good for you to say, Anna. I think that Anna she has some messages for us, right, coming from the audience.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, I was going to ask a question to Leona. Uh, I believe not only you went through a near death experience, but you always had like a lot of experience with loss because of managing your chronic disease. So, what kind of message would you leave to our viewers about life and death?
Yeah, sure. I want to say to the followers that death is not the opposite of life. It might be the opposite of birth. But in between birth and death, there is an eternal, multidimensional life of consciousness. And I want to tell them try not to confine yourself to this physical dimension. Don't be afraid to explore other dimensions to stay balanced and heal holistically, and awaken to the present moment, which I talk about in my book too, because any moment could be the last. So when you stop running away from death, you awaken to the miracle of being alive.
Very good, very good. And any more advice that you would give the public in terms of how to deal with the struggle and going through dark times?
Yeah, as I told Mario, as long as we, stay strong and detach ourselves from the material world, trying to explore other dimensions, especially the spiritual one, the struggles and the hardships over time, temporarily they disappear, and we can view the world from a totally different perspective afterwards. Because definitely any hardship that we go through, it leaves an impact on our life. And it could be a moment of awakening to our true purpose, just like what happened to me. And the
Very good.
mantra I want to leave the audience with is that I am alive, aware, and free now.
Very good. I still have one question of the public, Mariani. She's asking after the lived experience that you had, did you feel like you had more external support in terms of your conscious growth?
External support, she means from people outside, or
Yeah, I would think it would be like in terms of a support group or family, friends, you know, the
yeah,
people that are in your life. They also helped you in terms of growing your consciousness, or it was something more like a solo journey that you had.
yeah. I think it is a solo journey because you know people who have not gone through the experience, they have a hard time comprehending what have happened during that time. But definitely, they will have emotional support. They empathize with the suffering that you went through, and you went through the hardship and the struggle of going back to normal and recovering physically. So they are compassionate and supportive in that sense. But in terms of what happened to you conscious wise, um, there isn't much, I want to say, understanding to what exactly have shifted in your in your conscience, or in your consciousness, and the impact that that experience have had over you as an awareness, not as a physical body.
Yes, that's where it's the most important thing, because whenever you experience firsthand, it's you don't have to prove anybody else that was proven for you. The people they might accept it or not, but you went through it. So that is
Exactly.
a very serious certainty that you have inside yourself, right?
Exactly. So,
Mhm.
walking the path, and as I do in my coaching, the holistic health and three brains intelligence coaching, I coach those who are chronically ill uh, with the same, multidimensional healing path that I went through. Because I walked the path, it is, for me easier and more understandable to deal with those who are going through these hardships and chronic illnesses, and allow them to overcome the struggles and get back to normal.
There's nothing like walking the talk, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Talking about walking the talk, if someone wants to buy your book, where can they find it, Leona?
Yeah, both books could be found on Amazon.
Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, both of them are found on Amazon.
And if
Very good.
anybody wants to contact Leona, I am putting her email here. So you guys feel free if you have any more questions to contact her, right? And Mario and Leona, would you guys want to make any final remarks and say anything else?
I would just ask Leona about it. Would like to say something to wrap up our conversation, Leona? Be comfortable.
Well, I have given my advice, and I have talked about life and death and birth. And I hope that, this conversation and this experience can guide others to escape the fear of death. And I'm not saying that they should attempt any near death experiences or anything like that. It's just that the fear of death can hold us prisoners in this life. So once we free ourselves from the fear of death, we become free to explore other dimensions, and that could be, something uplifting, and it could alter our state of consciousness to perceive the world from a whole new perspective.
Very good, Leona. We are pleased to have you here, right, in our conversation today. It was a huge pleasure. I just want to say that if you enjoyed this conversation, give us a like, okay, and subscribe our channel, because actually we are about to have all the episodes of Consciousness and Evolution. Thank you for joining us today. The next Consciousness and Evolution is set to have here Ana Paula Simões talking about how consciousness can evolve through film study. I think it promised to be a very interesting conversation as well. Ana Yoga, your final words, my dear monitor.
Okay, thank you for being here with us today, and I see you in 15 more days. And we have also Jean that followed our conversation, saying that
Good.
thank you, Leona, for sharing your experience.
Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Anna and Mario, for hosting me today.
Very
Very
good.
well. Thank you
Very
very
much.
much, and see you later, guys.
See you. Bye bye, people. Have a good Sunday.